What is up, guys? Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new 5-star character that just came out on Global, and that is going to be the new 5-star archer, Super Orion. So Super Orion is finally here. He was one of the most sought after servants going into 2021. Finally he's available for us to pull for, and he is just a flat out monster in my opinion. He's a very powerful servant, probably one of the better archers in the game, if you ask me. I do think a lot of people will generally agree with that opinion, if I'm being honest. He's just super good, really powerful. He can do a ton of damage. Yeah, he just got a really good skill set, really good damage output. Overall, just a fantastic servant in my opinion. And his stats are pretty good as well. So for his HP, he'll have 13,494. This will rank him 58th overall. Not too high, but really not that bad. And as for his attack, he'll have 12,557. This will get him into the top 10, ranking him 9th overall in attack stats, which is really nice, especially considering his skills and everything else that he'll have later on. Star absorption is 153, really big as well for him. Star generation's 8%, it's a little bit low, unfortunately, but there are ways around that. Noble Phantasm generation is 0.96, which is pretty high. His hit counts are a little bit on the lower side though, so just kind of offset that a little bit. It's kind of one of the big flaws about him, I guess. We'll talk about that a little bit though. But yeah, overall, fantastic character in my opinion. We're just gonna go ahead and talk about everything this character has, and hopefully you guys feel the same at the end of this video. So we are going to get right into it and take a look at his skills. He has a very good skill set, very offensive oriented set of skills. He's definitely a glass cannon, if you ask me, so to speak. He's got a lot of offensive stuff, not a lot of defensive stuff in there. But his first skill will increase his own Buster card effectiveness for 1 turn. So also apply special attack to demonic and wild beast enemies for 1 turn. So you're going to get a 50% increase to your Buster card effectiveness for 1 turn. That's really big. You're also going to get a 20% increase to demonic and wild beast enemies. It's always really nice if you are going up against those enemies, but if not, you still get a 50% increase to your Buster card effectiveness. It's on a 5-turn charge time, which isn't too high. The only drawback is that the Buster card effectiveness only does last for 1 turn, which is a little unfortunate, but I guess, you know, he's plenty strong as it is, so he can't be super overpowered. His second skill is going to apply Guts to himself 1 time over the course of 3 turns. This will also increase his own attack for 3 turns, and this will also grant him some critical stars. This will be on a 6-turn charge time at maximum level, which is pretty fair considering what you get. You'll get a 3,000 HP Guts Revival 1 time, but still not too bad. You'll get a 20% increase to your attack and 20 stars at max level. So it's a really good skill. You get some stars, you get an attack boost, and you get a little bit of defense as well. That is his only bit of defense. So it is nice though that he is able to, you know, have that guts and come back in case he does get nuked down. And then for his third and final skill, he is going to increase his own critical star gather rate for 3 turns. He will also increase his critical strength for 1 turn when attacking with Buster cards. This will happen 3 times over the course of 3 turns. So essentially, if you attack with Buster card, you're going to increase your critical strength for 1 turn after that. So he sets up a pretty good follow-up attack for himself on the following turn with this skill. And that could be very deadly, especially if you're using this with his Noble Phantasm and just prepping for a really big hit on the following turn. The percentages are really good too. So 500% increase to your critical star gather rate, so you're definitely going to be getting a lot of stars, and then 100% increase to your critical strength, which is pretty massive. So like I said, you're going to have a huge follow-up attack with this guy with this skill. As far as his passives go, he does have 3. He does have the traditional archer one, the independent action, increasing his critical strength. He does have the Sea God's Blessing, which will apply damage plus 175. It'll also apply damage cut 175. So you get a little bit of extra offense and just a little bit of defense as well. And then he also does have the Scorpius's Curse, which is interesting, but it will increase poison damage dealt to him by 20%. So if he does get poisoned, he'll take a little bit more damage. So all in all, I do think Orion has a fantastic kit of skills. Really the only drawback I would really say is that his Buster card increases only for 1 turn. Everything else is pretty nice and pretty good. So overall for skills though, I will give him 5 stars in skills. He definitely does what he's intended to do, and that's do a lot of damage. So there's really not too much else that you can really do. Obviously you can make any skill better, but I think it's a pretty good breakdown for him overall. So going ahead and looking at his command card deck and his Noble Phantasm, he does have 1 quick, 1 arts, and 3 buster, and his hit counts are going to be 3 on the quick and arts, 1 on the buster, and 5 on the extra attack. So unfortunately his buster cards only hit once. They're going to be really powerful hits, but only 1 hits there. So a little unfortunate, only 1 arts card there as well. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit tricky for him to generate his Noble Phantasm with the lack of hits, with only 1 arts card. He has no battery skills, no MP gain skills. It's very, very difficult for him to get his Noble Phantasm charged. So definitely you want to go in there with like his Noble Phantasm already charged with like a Kaleidoscope or something that can get him there, or just using supports to like further increase his attack while also gaining his Noble Phantasm gauge would be a very good strategy as well. But as for his Noble Phantasm, it's a buff. It doesn't do any damage, but it will increase his own attack for 3 turns. It'll apply Ignore Invincible to self for 3 turns, apply Debuff Immunity to self for 3 turns. He'll also gain 10 critical stars every turn for 3 turns, and on the overcharge, he will increase his own critical strength for 3 turns. So it's a pretty cracked Noble Phantasm, if you ask me. You get a ton of really good buffs, and like it's not just like offensive buffs, although technically like Ignore Invincible and Debuff Immunity are like offensive buffs, I guess. But like just being able to ignore Invincible, it's not just like pure like damage boost. He gets so much out of it. He gets the attack boost, so he can do more damage, but then he can also ignore the defense, so he can actually make sure that he's attacking and getting through those like evasions or invincible or things like that, to be able to make sure that he's actually attacking. But he's also going to make sure that he doesn't get himself debuffed, because he has that immunity for 3 turns as well. So like he's just getting everything out of this, and then he's going to be able to get stars and increase his own critical strength as well. Like that's pretty crazy. So if you're going to give an offensive servant a Noble Phantasm that doesn't do any damage, this is definitely a way to do that. Being able to just get an insane amount of damage output after you fire off that Noble Phantasm. So having him start with his Noble Phantasm and just getting those buffs and just going in and just like taking out enemies, it's a pretty good strategy if you ask me, especially if you know you're going up against a pretty tough boss fight, or if you're in like a one-way fight where you know the enemy's going to be by himself. You could just boom, Super Orion, knockout, win. So yeah, pretty good, pretty powerful. So I'm pretty excited that I do actually have him, and I can actually work on putting him into some pretty powerful teams and getting him doing some pretty crazy numbers with him overall. So yeah, obviously I think you guys know where I'm going with this for his overall ranking for damage. He's gonna get 5 stars pretty easily there. I feel like just he's really powerful, and it's really not that hard to set up for him either. So yeah, just use Noble Phantasm and use his skills, and you're gonna just be hitting really strong. So 5 stars for his damage capabilities for sure. As for his critical ability, I am also going to give him 5 stars. He has a lot of crit support. He has a lot of crit damage boosters. He has the ability to generate stars. He has the ability to gather stars. He has everything you need for crits, really. So how could I not give him 5 stars for that? And then taking a look at his Noble Phantasm as a whole, I am only going to give him 4.5 stars for this. And the only reason for that is because of the fact that it's very difficult to generate his Noble Phantasm. If we were looking strictly at the abilities of his Noble Phantasm, it would get a 5 star, but that's not all the criteria I have for the overall ranking. It is also like how easily you're able to generate your Noble Phantasm. So he's got good Noble Phantasm generation, but he doesn't have the hit counts and the cards to back it up. He has no batteries for Noble Phantasm generation as well, so he relies heavily on support to fill his gauge. So if you're not bringing in like a kaleidoscope or something in order to start the battle with his noble phantasm gauge filled, then it's going to be a little difficult to get the ball rolling. Granted, you probably won't actually need his noble phantasm until the end of the fight anyway, so you could opt for like just an overall damage boosting craft essence, and then just work slowly on getting his noble phantasm charged as you go, and then you're good to go for the boss fight or whatever challenge you're using it for. It's definitely an optimal strategy, but just for the sake of the ranking, he does struggle a little bit to get his noble phantasm up and going. So obviously once you get his noble phantasm going, it's a little bit easier because then you can start hitting crits, and it makes it a little bit faster. But until then, it's only half a point. It's not that big of a deal. And then for his survivability, he's only going to get 3 stars. He's kind of a glass cannon, but they gave him a random guts in there to just help him out a little bit. But outside of that, he has no defense, so he is going to fall pretty fast if he gets focused. So, you do want to bring in something, I guess, with a little bit of defense to help him survive. Maybe something with like a targetable invincibility or evasion or something, or healing or something to help him out a little bit. But he doesn't need much. I mean, he does have pretty good HP. He's a 5-star character, so he can kind of survive on his own, and odds are he's definitely going to be able to out DPS whatever you're going up against. So more often than not, he'll be able to kill the enemy faster than he dies, but just overall, he really doesn't have any defense, so 3 stars for survivability. And then for support, I did think about giving him 0 stars in support because he doesn't have any support skills at all. He's really not a support character. He is 100% focused on himself, as he should be, though. He's your damage dealer. You're going to want to support him in doing damage, but he's not supporting anyone else. The only reason why I gave him 1 star is because he just is going to kill the enemies so quickly that technically that's supporting your team because they're not going to get attacked. So I didn't want to give him 0 stars, so I gave him 1 star. And I mainly did that because it helps his overall ranking get him to a 3.9 out of 5 instead of something else like 3.7 or whatever. I felt that was a little too low. But yeah, it is what it is. Super Orion, 3.9 out of 5. I think he's a really good character in my opinion, and obviously his ranking goes a little bit down because of his support or lack thereof. But still, 3.9 is not bad. I think he's a fantastic character. He does a ton of damage, and he's definitely one of the better archers in the game. So, in my opinion, he is strongly recommended, very highly recommended, and if you don't have him, I suggest go pull for him right now. So yeah, anyone who gets him probably not going to be disappointed at all. I guess the only drawback to Orion is in his ascension materials, because you actually are going to need the stars, which are the new materials from Lost Belt 5, in order to fully level up his skills. But the problem with that is that Caster Artoria also requires those, and most people are probably going to wait until Caster Artoria comes out in order to use those stars, because she's better. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. Me personally, I have my Orion at level 8s for his skills. I'm not using my stars. I'm waiting for Caster Artoria myself, because there's just not enough to max them both out. And unless you want to sit there and farm Lost Belt 5 in order to get those stars, which there's certainly going to be those people that will do that, you don't get enough stars to do both. So you have to make that decision. I made the decision for Caster Artoria, and while Super Orion is extremely fun to use and insanely powerful, I'm going to get more mileage out of Caster Artoria, and then eventually I'll go back and level up Orion. But still, having 8s isn't really that big of a deal with a character that powerful. Anyway, that's enough ranting for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord, so feel free to check those out, and I'll see you guys next time.